Welcome to episode 42 of 1530. Today we're going to be discussing Indian Wells tournament just happened. There's also a San Diego Open for at least the first time that in my memory, of watching tennis. Basically what happened is the Asian hardcourt swing got canceled due to COVID-19. So Indian Wells was rescheduled from March. Is when it's normally played. It's commonly called the Fifth Slam. It's a pretty prestigious Masters 1000 event has the second biggest tennis stadium in the world. Matt and I both gone to Indian Wells. Pretty fun tournament. Gone there a few times. But that one's kind of been dominated by the big three. Federer and Djokovic in particular, I think, share the record for the most Indian Wells titles. And it's a fun event that just happened. So we're going to cover that event, and then just looking forward to the end of the year, just talking about the state of tennis and talk about the numbers as always. But we should probably get started off with the start of the day. So start of the day is 3, and that's 3 consecutive titles have been played, or 3 consecutive matches have been played at Indian Wells, and the title where Federer, Nadal, or Djokovic, one of the big 3, have not won it. So like I was saying, Federer and Djokovic are kind of classically dominant Indian Wells. Even Nadal has won it. But the last 3 years, or really 4 years, Del Potro beat Federer, had to save match points to beat Federer in 2018 in the title match. Team beat Federer in 3 sets in 2019. We all know 2020 was COVID, and so Indian Wells was canceled 2020. And here in 2021, Cam Norrie beat Nicolas Basilashvili. Probably butchered his last name there, but he defeated him in the final. So kind of an unexpected final, even though, Novak Djokovic didn't show up to Indian Wells to play. And then, of course, Federer and Nadal shortened their seasons this year due to injury. So kind of a shocking turn of event, and where the Indian Wells has kind of been dominated by the big players. Past few years, it has not. I think I was even seeing a stat. First time someone ranked outside, I can't remember if it was top 10 or top 15, but the last time that happened was Ivan Lubicic, which is Federer's coach. He won Indian Wells early 2000s. I can't remember the exact year, but it's been a long time. It's been dominated by the top players of the sport. So I don't know, Matt, what's your first take on that? Surprising? Not surprised?
Yeah, I mean, you didn't have any of the big 3 in this year, so obviously you knew you were going to have something relatively new coming into it, but nonetheless, the tennis was still high quality, and good to see Norrie get a title under his belt. I'm sure he was happy about that. He's been kind of on the rise recently, and which is good to see him kind of consolidate some success there.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect heading in either, but when we saw Zverev and Tsitsipas at least have a route once they got at least to the quarters, I guess Zverev got knocked out in the quarters. We'll talk about that match by Taylor Fritz. Kind of a Southern California guy. The crowd was very much rooting for Taylor, and Taylor played some great tennis, but still somehow thought maybe Tsitsipas or Fritz would come through. And the players I wasn't necessarily expecting in Norrie and Basilashvili came through. So exciting, a lot of parity in the sport. Medvedev, of course, would have been a big favorite too, but Grigor Dimitrov played excellent, kind of some vintage Dimitrov. Medvedev even said, he's like, I don't think anyone can top what Grigor is doing. He shouldn't be able to be beat. Of course, was beat, but, just goes to show that there's a lot of parity. And I don't think Grigor really played bad when he lost, but it's just, some tight tennis. Pretty interesting. Leading up to Indian Wells, I mentioned the San Diego Open. Kind of cover that match super quick. The final anyways. Casper Ruud, who's been classically, he's just the clay court guy, right? He won all these clay court tournaments. Well, he actually beat Norrie in the final in the San Diego Open, and there were some good players there. So real quick run through the numbers here. I think it's showing that Casper Ruud is definitely not just a clay court specialist. He can play on the hard court as well, and he's pretty good. He's got the really good forehand. I can't remember who was tweeting about it, but someone was talking about, mark Casper Ruud down for French Open, 2025 or something like that. He's like, in a few years, he'll be winning the French Open. I think he's another guy kind of like Tsitsipas where he's really comfortable on the clay, but he won the San Diego Open. Pretty exciting. It's running through the numbers. First serve, points won, he was a very high 74%, and you could tell Norrie on his side 48%, very, very low. So Ruud was returning pretty well. Norrie was struggling a little bit more to win easy points out the first serve. Ruud, he's always good on that. Clay, his numbers are also pretty high for first serve points won. And then second serve points won, we're almost equally as good, 64%, which is very, very high, to Norrie's only 33%. So kind of a lopsided one just for those two stats alone, you could kind of tell. And Ruud didn't even face a break point. Norrie did save, just a single break point. All the 5 of 6 were converted by Casper Ruud. So overall, kind of dominating display there. And it showed, right, in the match. Pretty lopsided. 65% of the points were run by Ruud. Only 35% of the points were run by Norrie. But Norrie was able to, kind of take that in stride and play really well in Indian Wells. So I was impressed to see his resilience because they kind of got beat down by Ruud in San Diego. But, and he won at 6-0, 6-2 for those who are wondering or who saw the match. So pretty decisive win there. But I don't know, any thoughts on Ruud, Matt? I know he's been one where he's been playing pretty well the last couple of years. Yep, he's pretty good. I don't think I have much else on him. I mean, plays pretty good, especially for his stature. Kind of like David Goffin. He's not super tall, but he can whip the first serve and play the good forehand. All right, well, Indian Wells, let's cover that. That's always a really, really fun tournament. So let's see some of the matches we had here. Mention Andy Murray. I don't know if you got to see any of the highlights, Matt, or see the match, but Murray looked really good, actually. He lost in straight sets to Zverev. I believe it was like 7 or 6-4, 7-6. So still straight sets, but it kind of looked a little bit like Murray of old. His first serve, he wasn't quite winning points at the clip that he's used to. He won 66% of his first serve points, but the first serve looked not only good, but he could move and back up the first serve a little bit. So I think we're seeing improvements there. Zverev was even better, 72% first serve points won. And his first serve percentage was really high at 72%. So Zverev served pretty well, only had 4 double faults, 8 aces. I think that actually matched Murray, 4 double faults, 8 aces. Second serve points won, they're both pretty similar, 43% for Zverev, 41% for Murray. But ultimately, it came down to Zverev was just a little bit more solid in the big points. You could even tell on their first serves. Like I said, Murray was hitting some good serves. The max speed was 132 miles per hour for Murray, 140 for Zverev, and the average was 116 miles an hour on his first serve for Murray, 124 miles per hour for Zverev's first serve. Of course, Andy's second serve is always a little bit of his weakness, their Achilles heel, 88 miles per hour, and kind of can sit up a little bit. People can attack it to Murray's 98 miles per hour. There's Zverev's 98 miles per hour. So fun match. It made me kind of have hope for Murray, honestly, even though he lost it. But he's looking a little bit like he's got the movement back. He's got some swagger, and he's got some good shot selection. Just Zverev is just a little bit too good. So I was impressed with that. I think Murray's playing in the European Open this week. So it's a smaller tournament. He beat Stan Wawrinka in, I think it was last year, maybe the year before. It was kind of the start of his comeback. Obviously, he's got some downs since then, but I wonder if he can build on his success in Indian Wells and maybe get some confidence with that Masters 250 title. But any thoughts on Murray or Zverev, Matt?
What, do I have anything to add? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, on Murray and Zverev in general.
No, nothing different than what you just said. It's good to see him on the court. Was this the match that he hit an underhand? Was that against Zverev? He hit an underhand serve?
I can't remember if it was against Zverev or it was the previous round against Carlos Alcaraz, which was a fun match.
Oh, that's who it was. Yeah, Alcaraz. Yeah.
Standard, yeah. And Murray had to fight for that one, so that was fun. Yeah, did he win the point when he hit the underhand, or did he not?
Oh, yeah. He totally caught him off guard.
Way.
I think it was game point. Yeah, he hit it and walked off the court. Obviously, didn't walk off the court, walked over to the side.
That's funny, man. Anyway. That's awesome. Yeah, real quick, we're talking Murray, is he back where he's going to be? So do a quick comparison here on ultimatetennisStats.com. Just kind of see how he's doing. So I'll just show you here the numbers. So like I mentioned, Murray was at 66% in that match for first serve points won. Here in Ultimate Tennis Stats, looks like his career average is like 75%, which is pretty high. Of course, Murray does really well on the fast courts. Let's see how he's doing this last 52 weeks. Okay, so only a 1% down, 73%. It's interesting. Second serve, though, is quite a bit worse. It's under 50. It's at 48.9%, 49% compared to 52%. So looks like, according here to the numbers, really got to look at that second serve. Looks like the first serve points won weren't super different this year than his career average. Let's look at the return real fast. Oh, yeah, the return's pretty eye-popping. So it's a 5% different on numbers for first serve return points won. So his career average has been 33%, which is pretty solid on the first serve. This last year, he's only been 28%. So 5% different. That's a pretty huge difference in tennis. Monumental, in fact. Break points, 2% worse than his career average as well. So a couple things to look at there. Let's see. What was his first serve return points against Zverev? Closer to the 33 or closer to the 28? Let's see. Turn stats. Yeah, 28% exactly is what Murray had to Zverev's 34%. So I think really just watch him on the return, which is a function of not only match play, but also his legs and how he can move his movement in general. So I think we're seeing some good signs on the serve. Just need to do better on the return, I guess. So something to watch for Murray. He really seems like he's motivated to come back. Just will the body let him? I don't know. That's something we got to watch. So other matches. So I mentioned the Zverev Taylor Fritz match. So that one was pretty fun to watch. The big stuff from that was just how big Fritz, played. He wasn't backing down from the occasion. He's always had a big game, but it was kind of interesting to see him impose it on Zverev, who also has a big game. So there were some good rallies. Zverev did have a few, he had 5 double faults, but he did have 9 aces to offset that. So not like he was serving horribly bad. He won 75% of first serve points won, but Fritz one-upped him. He was 82% first serve points won. So Fritz was really using his first serve effectively, which he usually does when he's playing well and backing it up. His second serve points won were 45%, and Zverev's was the same at 45%. And break points saved. Looks like Fritz had to save a bunch. He saved 5 of 8, and Zverev saved 1 of 4. So it looked like they each won the same number of break points, just the conversion rates were different there, of course. Overall, let's see, looking at the returns. Overall return points, 25% return points won on the first serve for Taylor Fritz, 18% for Zverev. That's pretty low. Obviously, if Fritz is serving 82% first serve points won, you could tell it'd be low on Zverev's side. And then second serve return points won were again identical, 55%. So pretty tight match for both these guys. Even the points won was pretty tight. Taylor only won 52% of the points to Zverev's 48%. But overall, he was able to get the job done. Both guys again having big serves. Looks like both guys were averaging pretty high serve numbers there. And yeah, it was fun to see Fritz win a big match. I think he struggled with injuries. What was it, Matt? Was it Roland Garros where he had the wheelchair? I believe this year.
Yeah, I think so.
And then Wimbledon, he was really pushing to play Wimbledon, even though he wasn't fully healthy. And then he didn't end up doing super great in Wimbledon. And now he's had a decent U.S. Open, and now he's here Indian Wells. So exciting for Taylor Fritz. I think we need to have an episode, Matt, where we talk about the Americans, because Americans have had a drought for the men's side for winning slams. So wonder who the next guy that could do that, or at least get top 10 or, play well. There's a few guys. Tommy Paul had a decent Indian Wells tournament. Francis Tiafoe's done well in the past. Jack Sock in the past as well. John Isner, Sam Querrey. But it's like, okay, is one of these guys, are they going to make a final of a slam again like Querrey has? I don't know. Or, sorry, I guess Querrey's made a semi. But, yeah, I would really like to dive into the numbers of the Americans and see which Americans are up and coming. Because I think Fritz has the weapons to at least go far. But will he? I don't know. It's hard. And I think back to your point about, well, there's not really anybody, to challenge Indian Wells if there's no Djokovic or Federer or anybody. Fritz had to get through let's say he beats Zverev, and then on the other side, if you have to face Djokovic, like what are the odds ELO-wise that you beat both of them, right? Probably not very high, but if you only have to face, maybe one super top guy in Zverev, might be okay. Of course, it didn't work out for Fritz that way, but your path opens up a lot easier. You don't have to beat as good of guys. It might be a smaller difference in, in ELO, excuse me. So the odds aren't stacked against you going in, right? So I think there's a lot more parity. Obviously, when you don't have even just Djokovic taken out of the mix, there's a lot more parity. It really opens up. And if someone like Zverev or Medvedev struggles, it's completely wide open. And I think we saw that with Medvedev losing pretty early. And then it was kind of setting up for Zverev, Tsitsipas semi, but it didn't quite materialize because, again, these guys just know they only have to beat one of the, only have to beat Zverev maybe, and that's all you have to see. So I think it's interesting the way it opened up. But, yeah, impressed with Taylor Fritz. Of course, he did end up losing his next match. Didn't make it through Norrie, but still pretty amazing. Let's talk also Tsitsipas. He also had a pretty good tournament. He lost a nail-biter to Basilashvili. This is one where he actually won more points than Basilashvili, but Basilashvili just won the more clutch points, really, what it came down to. So break points converted. Basilashvili was 4 of 5, and that was I was able to sort here stats by significance. That was the most significant stat. Even though Tsitsipas had 4 of 10 break points, he didn't convert the same rate, right? They each had the same number, but Basilashvili was a little more clutch on those big points. Serve points won, though, Tsitsipas, 40%. That's astounding. His career average is closer to that 33%, vice the 40%. He was pretty high on there, but ultimately, Basilashvili had more unforced errors. He also had more winners, but it's kind of a weird match up and down. Like I said, I think Basilashvili ended up just winning the more important points at the end of the day. And kind of funny, remember when Basilashvili beat Federer earlier in the year, like, oh, Federer's losing to this guy. And then Basilashvili goes on to go to the final. I don't remember if he won that tournament in Dubai. But now he goes ahead and he makes another final here in Indian Wells. So kind of an unlikely guy. He's making a late career surge, but he played really well against Tsitsipas to knock him off and get a chance. Because like I said, I think a lot of things were stacked against him. Tsitsipas had 10 aces to his 5. Tsitsipas returned a lot better, but just didn't quite win the points he needed to win. And some matches go that way, unfortunately. So he lost a 3-setter to Basilashvili in the final. So Cam Norrie, again, the stats by significance for the break points. Norrie being more clutch, 5 of 8 to 3 of 6 for Basilashvili. And then serve return, points won. Norrie was able to win at a clip of 44%. I mean, he's just winning so many points off the Basilashvili serve. And even second serve, return points won. Maybe not as good. Basilashvili was 52% to Norrie's 41%. But I think the damage was just done on the first serve. He was able to get into a lot of the Basilashvili service games. And, ultimately able to really dominate there. Both guys hardly came to net. Looks like 4 of 6 for Norrie and 6 of 9 for Basilashvili. I think the pattern, too, with being a lefty, Norrie's one of those lefties, don't have a ton of them at the top of the game, but he was really able to bother Basilashvili with his going backhand to backhand up the line. That was kind of one of his strategies there. So, yeah, again, really happy to see Norrie. He's one of those really good upbeat guys. He kind of reminds me of Raonic and kind of his approach to the game as far as, very positive. And then his coach, I think, even talked about in one of the articles how he tries to improve little things here and there, whether it's movement. He's very much a, get 1% better at each thing type of guy. So, yeah, super happy for Norrie. Matt, any comments on those numbers or on Norrie's maiden title?
Oh, it's great to see. I guess he has another one in Los Cabos, but I mean, this is the first Masters 1000 and definitely more important. But
yeah, thank you. Maiden Masters 1000. Good point.
Yeah. Well, I made the same mistake earlier. That's why I went and checked it. I was like, wait. But sure. It's good to see. It's good to see, this parity. We talked about Fritz having to overcome Zverev and that being kind of, maybe the biggest one. And Basilashvili had the same the same thing, right? Once you get past Tsitsipas, he would have had to face Zverev had Fritz not taken care of him, but maybe that made his path a little bit easier there to get to the final and try his hand at a title there. But definitely good court play, good returning by Norrie to get those numbers and kind of take control of the match. So.
Yeah, maybe he had a good path, but regardless of how he got there, right, he got the job done, which is all that you can really ask for. So, Matt, if you'd had to take a guess, his numbers between this year and last year, Norrie's numbers, huge difference. What are you thinking on any good thoughts or intuition there on Norrie?
You're asking me to guess if his
numbers pulled up versus last year. Go ahead.
You want me to guess if his numbers this year are significantly different from previous year?
Yeah, if they're significantly different or just a little bit different, or because obviously we'd assume they'd be a little bit better this year because he's done better, but you think big differences or small differences here? I'm not defining.
He won this title here. Has he done much the rest of the year? I don't know. So I'd say maybe his numbers are similar.
Yeah. Wimbledon, I think he did make. Well, he faced Federer. What was it, the third or fourth round? Took a set off Federer, but like you're saying, numbers are pretty similar. He is better this year, but I think it goes back to the very, very small changes can lead to bigger results. He is winning a lot more matches this year, though. So the results show that he's winning vice 55% of his matches in his career. This year, about 69% of his matches. So if you kind of recall Federer, Nadal, those top guys, they don't quite win 80% of their matches, but I think they're usually in the upper 70s. They win about 70-something% of the time, 75% you could say. So Norrie's not that far off, 69, 70%. But, that's a big difference in results, but how did he get there? And really the results, the numbers show it's kind of small stuff. So we'll go to his serve first. He's not really acing anymore. It's about the same. He's getting his first serve in about the same amount, but his first serve points won are 1.7% more. So he's able to somehow, don't know if that's just a little bit better on the first serve or if he's backing it up a little bit better on the next shot. And then his second serve points won exactly 1% better. He's actually a little worse at saving break points by 1%, but overall that's leading to him winning 3% more service games. So those, little 1% efforts in the first and second serve, what he's doing there. And I haven't watched Norrie enough to know exactly what he's doing. I know movement has been talked about. He's a little bit better on the movement, kind of anticipating, but that's leading to 3% more service games won. And then you go to the return. He's also winning 3% more return games. And really everything looks pretty identical except for second serve return points won is 2.5% better. So that's a pretty big number. And then overall, he's winning 3.5% more break points won. So somehow he's able to, maybe in rallies, able to win more of these second serve return points or maybe more aggressive on the second serve return. Not exactly sure. Have to watch him more to find out. But yeah, so kind of interesting. It's exactly 3.3% more return games won and 3.3% more service games won. So overall, that swings some matches in your favor, 14% more matches won. So just kind of interesting to look at the numbers where, I wouldn't say he's doing things drastically better, but it looks like, a little 1% here, 1% there that's benefiting him. So I know we've talked about that stuff before, but again, testament to small things kind of leading to bigger results. So we'll see what happens. What else do we got here? How are we looking throughout the rest of the year, Matt? I don't know if you heard about Djokovic with the whole vaccination thing. Have you heard much about that with Australia?
I have not.
Yeah, so Australia came out and said, we will not allow any player that is unvaccinated to come and play in Australia because that's the rules for people coming in, and athletes will be given no exceptions. And Djokovic earlier in the year was kind of hinting toward that he hadn't been vaccinated and then said, I don't want to take any more questions on it. So he could have been vaccinated between now and then, but I don't think so, because now he's talking about a couple comments about Australia about how he might not go. So kind of hinting to me that he's probably not vaccinated. And I know that's kind of causing some uproar. Doesn't look like they're going to budge on it, though. They've come back and said it a couple of times. So that leads to a great question of, okay, well, Djokovic has won the most Australian Open titles of all time. He would be the favorite heading in, heavy favorite. That just opens it up completely. Federer's not going to be back by then. He's pretty much already said he needs more time to recover. Rafa's only won one Australian Open, but it would open it up for him. Certainly, he's made some finals, and Djokovic beating him. Well, I don't know. I feel like that opens up the field pretty much wide open if Djokovic isn't there for some reason, assuming everyone else who's a top player is vaccinated. I don't know if that's true, but I'm just guessing. So I don't know. I think that leads to some interesting questions. Any thoughts on what that would do for Australian Open? Anybody you're thinking that could maybe steal the title there?
Come on, Rafa. Everybody's biggest knock on Rafa is that he's a one-trick pony. He wins the French, and that's it.
Yep.
And so shoot, man, if he can get a second career slam, did I say that right? Yep.
Yep, you said it, yeah.
Then that'd be fantastic if he's healthy.
Yeah.
Other than that, you look at, the hardcore players, look at Medi thinking, hey, here's another chance for him to get another title, and some others, but maybe Zverev.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, because Medvedev, he was in the U.S. Open final, he won it. Australian Open, he was in the final, lost it, and then he was in the other U.S. Open final. So he's been in 3 out of the last 4 or maybe 5 hard court, Grand Slam finals. So you would expect him to go far, if not the final, maybe the semis, maybe try to challenge for the title. Team, biggest question mark. If Team was healthy, I would say sure, because he's done really well in hard court, but him being unhealthy and question mark, I'm not sure. So like you're saying, probably Zverev or Medvedev, but I think it opens up really anybody. You have a Tsitsipas, you can have a Rublev if he's playing well. I think a lot of people could go far. Maybe even an American, maybe Fritz. Fritz played well until Djokovic beat him, and then what was that, the 5th set, where Djokovic was struggling physically last year. So I think it would really open up the field, and the Australian Open could actually have some parity, which start of the year, right? Everyone's hungry and healthy usually, and Djokovic is just shutting everybody down at that tournament. So I think that would be really interesting if he's not able to be there. Of course, he could change his mind and get vaccinated, of course, or maybe he already is, but it's starting to hint like both sides don't really want to budge. So I think that's super fascinating. But yeah, so we'll be covering kind of the rest of the year as we go. The other big thing is just what happens the rest of this year, right? We do have the ATP finals in Turin, so not in London this year. And that's been won by a different player several different years in a row, right? Last year was Medvedev. Year before that was Thiem. Year before that was, I think, Dimitrov. We've had many different winners. No one can consolidate the title. And even when Djokovic and Federer have had the chance to challenge, they haven't won it. So I think it'll be really interesting to see the rest of the year, see these numbers, and look at the tennis world. So yeah, as always, enjoy the matches as they come. I think the Basel indoor title has been, or the Basel indoor tournament has been canceled. I think just COVID related, I guess. I don't know why they canceled it. But then the Paris Rolex Masters will also happen, it looks like, and then the ATP finals in Turin. So yeah, Matt, any picks for the rest of the year? I don't know if that assumes Djokovic isn't playing much for the ATP finals. I was just saying that how, it's been a different winner the last at least several years. Last year was Medvedev. Year before that was Thiem. Year before that was Gregor, I think. Or maybe, no, it was Zverev. Zverev won it. So anyways, the last 4 years in a row, I think there's been different winners. Maybe we get a defending champ with Medvedev. Maybe not. I'm not sure. But there's a lot of parity there at the end of the year tournament. So
yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see. To see too who's even there. Just like you said, will Djokovic be there? Rafa's not, right? I think he's
shut down, I think.
Yeah, he shut it down for the year. So, and Team's out. So I'm looking at the top 10 here.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the push for Norrie to maybe try to push in and make it. I know it's a goal. He'd have to perform really well at the end of the year, but he's pushing. So yeah, Fed dropped out of the top 10 officially. Also a big mark.
Yeah. So we'll see. See what happens.
Exactly. Well, that's about all we got. Like I said, we're just looking forward to finishing up the tennis season and then excited to see what happens next year. Hopefully COVID is less of a factor, but it could already be a factor with the first major of the year with the vaccination mandate in Australia. But as always, visit us at cognitionsphere.com. Theme music brought to us by Kevin MacLeod with excerpts from song Cool Rock. Please share our podcast with a friend that loves tennis. And also take a minute and write a review if you're enjoying this podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast. And until next time, we will see you on the court.